again, I can't say enough about the game Saturday and the win that how happy I am for our players. And I say that sincerely because, again, I'm getting older, and I'm not old. I'm getting older, and I've had a lot of wonderful games and experiences that I'll never forget. And that will be one of the very best. But for many of our players, that'll be a very, very monumental memory in their game. And it's not so much that you go out there and played way over your head, or it's that you were picked. So many people said there was no way, and that's all you heard. And that on their own efforts and on their own determination, they went out and played and won the game, and they can carry that with them. And so that's and many of our players who played last year. I don't want to get last year's over, but also there are memories these guys went through last year, not winning, not leading. That for those guys that were on the team to come back, and last year Liberty I think scored 3 touchdowns just on kicking game breakdowns, and after that first one we had blocked. Believe it or not, we worked all week to stop that particular block, and they still got it, which was to me, I'm just in a panic, especially when you made that last call to kick a 53-yarder. You know what was going through my mind, besides the fact that most everything can go. A lot of things can go wrong, and just a few things can go right on a kick like that. I'm jumping around, but I'll let y'all edit this if you want to. But when you make a call like that, there's one thing that can go right. He can make a 53-yarder. There's a lot that can go wrong, It can be blocked because he kicks it low to try to get the distance. They've already blocked one right up the middle. Then there's a quick score, game over, or we miss it and they get the ball right there and they easily tie it up. They could easily win, and if they don't, they go overtime. And the option was to go for it, which I immediately, it wasn't the first thing I thought of, but I had thought, let's just go for it. Fourth and 7, I believe it was. And that's probably 20%. The way our third downs have not been strong in the type of offense in our youth of our. So the options weren't good. So and we'll finish this topic before I go back to my opening comments. But so as you're going out there and you've driven the ball down now to get a win almost too soon, because you'd like one more first down and kick a field goal and run the clock out, because their quarterback could score from any place anywhere. He just had a 53-yard touchdown run, and so we knew that containing him was not. And so when we got to a 1st and 10 on about the 40, or 35, we had 2 losing first down. So now we lost yardage, and so now you're basically looking at a field goal, an overtime game, unless you can somehow get into range. And so those were all the decisions that had to be made. And if you remember, I called field goal first on the side and got them all together. And then I began to think, well, Rich, can you make it? It's funny how in moments like that you don't get all the suggestions from all your staff that you get for every other play, because nobody wants to make that one, because there wasn't a lot of really, this is the answer to it, And so I said, let's field goal, which is my first impression, which usually should always go with your gut feel, a visceral call more than a cerebral call. You like maybe a little bit of both, but that was more visceral as it came out. But then I said, no, let's go for it. Thank goodness they called timeout, and I said, you know what? We're going to be right here. If we miss that, we're going to be right here. If we miss the field goal, we're going to be right here. The field goal will win the game, but the fourth down won't win the game, So it just became, it was and looking back, if I'd have called it on Mondays at McDonald's like everybody else does, that's probably the call I would have made. So anyway, all that being said, there are memories of that game going back to my introduction. The memories those players will carry in that game. And there were a lot of heroes. I think, to reiterate what's already been said, I've always looking for the desire that the players have, determination when they come out of the locker room. Do they come out ready to go? Are they nervous because they're not supposed to be able to play with this team? And so most of the games of this year we've set the stage and come out and scored. We've come out and moved the ball from Kentucky all over. We hold them and we score, and even when we've gotten beat, sometimes we come out and have a good drive. We see that we're trying, and from there it can go forward. So, but when we came out and held them and drove the ball down, and they kicked the field goal, I thought the defining moment in the game, and I've said this several times, was the tackle that Zach Rasmussen made on that 73-yard return, that he was able to run down a guy's got number 5. He was either a skilled player or a linebacker, but our tight end ran him down, and then really had to go through 3 people to get to him, and I'm not sure he actually made contact. It's that he made the guy step out of bounds, which is the same thing. And then our defense came up with 4 more plays against a team that's phenomenal in the red zone, especially with a quarterback. But thank goodness he didn't carry the ball one time. I think they knew that's what we would plan for, is to sit back on him, because he's had a bunch of touchdowns on the goal line. He's the guy they usually go to. So we were able to stop the runs inside, and and then from there the game went on, to a big a great win for us. Some of the things were, I thought, one, it was a game that took the game to the halftime, because that took it 0-0 in the quarter. They scored with seconds left to get 14, so you're really going through the entire first half 7-0 against a team that's pretty good. So at halftime, you were able to say, "Men, you played your hearts out. You played just do that." Then offense, now let's go do something. You got the ball. We need you to finish the drive now. We don't, and they did, and then all of a sudden turnover, we got another one, and then all of a sudden they said, "Hold it now, let's don't throw an interception, let's run it," and then we got a punt, we got another one, then we got a punt, we got another one. Then they said, "Let's go back and open it up," and they did and scored. And so momentum changed a couple of times, and it wasn't just a case of they did everything wrong and we did everything right. We had quite a few wrong things too that we did. After we intercepted their ball on the one, we gave it right back to them on interception for a score. All that said, it was a great game for a lot of heroes, and there were a lot of heroes. And now the thing that we had to go is, although I'm having a press conference on Tuesday, our players have not heard about this game since Sunday. We're working on South Alabama, and that's all we're working on. And like I told our players on Sunday, Liberty doesn't have to wait till next year or the next time we play to get revenge. They can get revenge this Saturday. Just think about the game all week, and they'll get their revenge this Saturday. And then it doesn't take long for you to realize as a team, well, no matter what you do, everybody thinks you're now a 2-touchdown underdog anyway to go against the next team. So you're still just a team that has to find a way to win. And I think the reality came down pretty soon that we got to find a way to play as best we can and get better every week. So we've been working hard from that game. And so we got Monday. Now we've got to get ready for South Alabama and all of that. And their quarterback is they're 4-2. They are trying to get to a bowl as well. They've had some outstanding wins, and they look at us as one they've got to have to get to their special season, their new coach, and so we know what they're thinking, and so we've got to feel the same way. I got to somehow come out there and fight from where we are. But anyway, let's open for questions if we could, and I can get back to rambling, which I've been doing.
Coach, you got one question about Saturday night. How long does it take for you to unwind after a game like that? I mean, did you jump out of bed after a game like that? Or how was it?
Not nearly, and I'll tell you a story because John was with me at Auburn when we came in as a 36-year-old head coach at Auburn. He was there. I didn't go to sleep one night after any of those games. I couldn't sleep. My adrenaline, my youth, my adrenaline, my energy. We had a show with Mark Hubbard, did a show at like 5 in the morning. So about 3 o'clock, I'm still running people out of my house because I'm young and my kids are babies. And I didn't sleep one Saturday night after a game for 11 weeks. That's just energy. I fell asleep by 2 o'clock. I stayed up as long as I could after that game. It got over earlier because we went to 6, but that was stretching to get to stuff. I made church and Sunday school, but it takes a while. When you have a game that you really, coaches are like players. You live for, savor the moment of a victory, and you want to enjoy it because you know you've got one night, and now we play night games, and you don't get to enjoy it very far, So. But you unwind that by the next morning, as you watch the video, you enjoy that part on a game like that, and then you're immediately on the video of the next team. So it's about 24 hours that you do.
How do you capitalize program-wise in terms of bringing the program and hopefully recruiting down there?
It's already done. It's already done. I mean, look at the comments. Look at the things that have already been printed. That doesn't make a season. The season's not made, but the memories of that day and the notoriety, the publicity, the exposure to people in football, they recognize who's who and what's what. And most people in the country have recognized probably Cincinnati by far the number one group of five team, and that's happened over the last. But Coastal, Liberty, there ain't a whole bunch of the group of fives that have stood out in the last couple of years. Liberty's one of them that have said they're an independent FBS group of five, and there are not many, which makes you. And they've made a commitment publicly that they want to be the Notre Dame of Protestant football, whatever, Southern Baptist School. And so their commitment is clear. They want to be and they do a great job. Hugh does a great job. I've known Hugh since he was at Lambeth when I went back into coaching at North Alabama. And Hugh's been very successful wherever he's been. So, no matter what happens or what people think happen, he coaches very well, and his team was very well coached and very well. He gets football play. He gets football players. So, but we, by Sunday we're getting. I still got to do interviews. Still got to do all those things that we do Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. But we're busy going on to North Alabama. To South Alabama.
Coach, at all the wins in your career at Auburn, at all the big wins, where does this rank?
I'm going to put it with not the Auburn-Alabama game of '93, which to Alabama was huge, but that wasn't at that point an incredible upset. That was an upset. They were the defending national champions, and that was our first 11-0 season ever at Auburn. It was the last game of the season, and they were still favored a little bit there. But the next year we played Florida in Gainesville in '94, and we had won 15 straight games without ever losing. And we go into Florida, and Spurrier is a 17.5-point favorite, number one team ranked in the country, number one defense in the country, and he had never lost in the swamp. And we beat him 38-35 on the last play of the game in another improbable game. And so that it ranks right with that one, because that one, in a coach's mind, it ranks very high because of all the things that were working against you, which was great at that time, because in '93, '94, Spurrier was on top of the world, but he had 3 losses and 1 tie in '93, '94. He lost twice to me, once to my dad, and my dad tied him, so we weren't his favorite people during those years. But anyway, that's where it fits. And we beat Northwestern and Pitt when we were at Akron. Those were very big. I just think where we are in our program and what we need to do, and it only lasts, like I say, it only lasts 7 days until the next game comes up. And the original statement was they can't take away the publicity and exposure and what that means to the future of the program. That can't be erased. We can erase the momentum in 7 days. By this Saturday, that can erase momentum. We'll have to go find a way to get it back if we can't go upset someone else.
I promise I got a South Alabama question, but
yeah.
Back to Liberty. You've danced 3 times now.
What's that?
You've danced 3 times.
They messed me up. I'm disappointed. I told them last time, because I didn't invent the dancing. Last time I was coaching before television, we didn't dance. I come back, and the last 10 years I've been in football, the people dance. Then I go work with Dabo, and he was the dancer of all dancers, So I told the players after I danced, I said, you guys got to help me out. Play some music that I could dance to. I said, you'd have to go late 70s, early 80s, and it has to be disco, because that's the last time I probably danced. And so Saturday they made me go. They made me go without any music, and so. I love the thought process. I'm not fond of dancing. I'm not fond of public showing of emotion that much for an old man, but the point that the Coach Sweeney made that I took notes on. When you win a game, winning's hard. Winning's hard here. It's hard at Clemson this year. It's hard. When you win, there's no room for unhappiness. There's no room for pouting because you didn't play. There's no room for pouting because you didn't make a good play or you made. There's no room for anybody to sit there and be mad because he didn't get. Everybody won. I better not see one guy that's not happy. I better see everybody happy and everybody dancing, whether it's jumping up and down. And I took that point away of how valuable this little thing that now goes on in locker rooms does have value if it's seen that way. And of course, guys got their phones up, and that's kind of that other phase that I'm not a part of. But the significance of a football game is that there's no room for unhappiness, in a win, and a win for anybody on our team.
So South Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
They had a great win on Thursday, and you were talking to me last night briefly about their quarterback, Denver. You're familiar with
Sure.
being from South Carolina.
Right.
What are some of the things that you're seeing that's concerning you? Player of the week this past week had a great game against
He's a veteran. He knows how to play. People talk about what interceptions he's thrown. He was at South Carolina. against the SEC, trying to turn their program around. You're going to throw interceptions when you're the quarterback. I mean, running back may bounce outside and lose 5 yards on a dumb decision. Quarterback tries to win a game, he throws an interception. So I think he's an outstanding quarterback. He went to South Carolina as an outstanding quarterback. He's coached in a lot of games, and so he's found a home at South Alabama. So he goes in he's going to be comfortable in games. He's going to be comfortable in the pocket. He's not going to face anything he hasn't faced before. He's going to be relaxed and poised, and he's been there through the spring. We don't have many players here that were new that went through spring, and so all that puts him in a position to be playing at his best with an offense he's feel comfortable, a receiver that's one of the best in the conference, and an offense that he's at this point in the stage he's got a feel for it, and so he will be the key probably to their football team as they build it around him and his skills.
He's got a great receiver. He's been around.
Yes.
All-conference and told.
Absolutely, he can beat you himself. That combination alone, you got to have a plan for. I'm not revealing any strategy, but you have to have a plan. Are you going to single him? Are you going to double him? Are you going to put a corner on top of him, or walk a backer out over top of him? So if somebody bumps him, somebody slows down progress and gets somebody over the top. And if you do that, does that take too much away of safeties helping in the running game, or double somebody else? And so I'm not going to reveal any secrets of how, but you better account for that receiver. And you better account for him on all plays, so because he can score quickly, which was a great thing for our defense Saturday. We gave up no passes over 20 yards, and with a quarterback like they had that can extend plays. Now I think that Bentley is more of a classic drop back quarterback. He's mobile enough to move around, but he's not going to be a runner that can throw. He's a classic drop back quarterback that can move around, and so you'll have more of a stationary target, but he still has the ability to move around and make plays and make things happen.
How does Zach Alley's defense kind of differentiate from other defenses you've seen in your career?
I mean, there's been so many, and I grew up as a head coach at 26 that calls the plays, runs the offense, and hire our defensive coordinator. You better run it. I'm gonna give it to you. You're gonna be my highest paid guy. You're gonna run it, and I may go in on Monday and say I think we need to attack this quarterback, do this, but I'm going to give them. And so Zach is. I wanted a guy that had a philosophy that was tied to somebody that knew what they were doing. He had 8 years with who am I thinking about? Brent Venables, and he had 8 years under him. So his tutelage was very good. It hasn't been adulterated with a lot of other philosophies, so he doesn't have to think about all these different things coming into his mind. A little bit of Boise, but that's the way I grew up calling plays. I only had one guy ever work for me. It was my dad. So when I came in calling plays, I didn't have to add all these different philosophies together at a very early age. And so I think that was one, he's just it ties into what I wanted them to do. They're going to be very aggressive, and they're going to try to attack. You have to play a lot of man coverage, and so those kind of things are just the way defenses that are very good have to do. They've got to come after you and either stop the run with a blitz or blitz through the run to the quarterback, and both those things can help you. So I think he understood that we have to play defense at a relentless, full-speed pace, and everybody says they do. Not everybody does. I mean, I remember, go back to when I was young, and I went from Samford to Auburn, and I flipped on that film, and when you got to Alabama, it went at a different speed. That was after their championship year. The game just sped up because they were number one defense. They had the number one defensive coordinator in the country, and Brother Oliver, and that's the way I want us to play. I think that's what at Brent Venables, you see the way he plays. At Clemson, I think that's what we want to be relentless. We want to be aggressive, and we're not going to lose standing still or backing up. We're going to lose play going forward. And so we've been humbled on defense, and we've had people, Coastal and Georgia State, that have humbled us. So I don't think there's any kind of sense that we know something more or we have something better. We better have a great plan. We better go full speed and practice. And then we better believe in the plan and believe in ourselves. Those things have got to happen.
Terry, big picture, we talked about if you guys win, the fans will come. You've now won 3 times at home. Mm-hmm. Message to the fans now.
Well, again, my message is I hope you come. I can't make anybody. You can't worry about things you can't control. And I don't think I've been to a school in my career except Auburn. Every school, we had meetings with the president and the faculty and the administration. How can we get students to go to school? How do we get football? They don't go. I mean, if it's at Auburn, you got to wait in line. If it's LSU, you don't take your seat. Somebody's going to be in that seat. But that's been a I'll give you the MAC, which is a league I consider as good as this. Maybe not then, not maybe this year, not quite as much. You look at the bottom 25 schools in the country in attendance. They're in the bottom. They're all 12 of them are in the bottom 25 because we play a lot of Tuesday night games, Wednesday night games, and you can't sell season tickets that way. But there's also been at Akron and ULM. We haven't done quite enough to make it a great thing to come see. We've had one winning season since going to Division I. Akron had one winning season since going to Division I. So you couldn't build momentum. So I don't blame people for not coming. I'm just saying is if you want to help us build a program, come. And we'll promise you it'll be exciting. We'll play real hard, and we'll give you 60 minutes worth of football, but it won't always – I can't promise you we're going to win every game. And so now we just have to create a product that encourages people to come. And I think that's what games like Saturday, I know for a fact I went to church and the seats weren't all filled, but every single person in our church said they went to that game. Now, I've got a feeling not everybody went to that game, and they probably had to ask forgiveness for saying that to me while we were at church. But the point was everybody wanted people to think they were at that game. Because that's what everybody wants to do. Everybody I've talked to said, I was at that game, and I said, so the key is we're going to try to play as hard a football as we can. We're going to do all the things that all schools do. We have a great homecoming week. We have more activities than you can imagine. We're trying to create atmosphere, all those things you want to have. And eventually, if we will continue to win, it will solve itself. As my favorite thing is winning. Just win, baby. Just win. It's on my refrigerator door. Just win, baby, and that solves all problems. So it will. And ours have been loud. The ones that have come, they've loved it. And I think even the game that we lost, we played hard and we came back and scored at the end. But they really whooped us pretty good. But I think you get a taste of a team will play hard. So I think that will solve itself, and it won't necessarily solve itself. And I have sat through it at every school I've been to except an SEC school.
Coach, one last question.
Mm-hmm.
Special teams playing Saturday, you've put a great emphasis on improving, and certainly has improved across the board.
Yeah.
But in that third quarter, when you really dominated offensively and defensively, the tone was kind of set though by the kickoff covers.
Yeah.
And the position that they put you in by the
Right.
way they covered the kickoffs.
Well, I mean, when we came into this season, the people said, "Well, gosh, our kicking game." So we went out and found punters. We had a kicker here that wasn't eligible last year. We found punters. We found competition with the kicker, competition for long snapper. We returned a long snapper, and then I made Ron West the recruiting coordinator because the special teams coordinator. He has that maturity that Rich has, and then I have, and I felt like he would understand the importance of special teams because he's almost as old as I am. He understands back in the day when everybody coached. There was not really the special teams coach was something else that helped with that. So he's doing the special teams and organizing it. We've got everybody involved, and we spend a lot of time on it. And I have told our team if we're going to get one more win than people thought we could get, or one more win that might take us over the top, or before the season, let's just get one win. It might be by 1 point. It might be blocking an extra point, making an extra point. Our kickoff team came out, and every kickoff that you saw how hard I want to play, they've got a great punt return guy. We kept him inside the 20 all but the last time inside the 20. We had a breakdown because we had a penalty on that play, which was locking hands on a double team, which they abandoned 2 years ago. I think it was my fault. I saw them do it in practice, and I didn't correct it. And that's one of the things. Why didn't I correct that? Because if things can go wrong, they will. All they did was lock hands for a double. You used to do it all the time. You just hold hands to make sure you're where your guy is, and you double. Well, you can't be within. If you don't drop your hands, you got that 2-yard bot, and you don't do it. So they touched hands. Boom, penalty, put us back on the inside the 10 in the most important drive of the game. So that was critical to us. They blocked the kick, but we covered kicks. We made a field goal to win. The kicking game did win that game. because of the when it looks at the overall balance of the kicking game. The effort of the team on kickoff coverage was set the tempo for every defensive drive after a score. They set the tempo with field position, and the punting. We got all punts covered and protected, and then we kicked the game-winning field goal. So that was important.